Good morning. I'm Reverend Michelle Scott Huffman. My pronouns are she, her. I am a sort of mid-height woman who's certainly middle-aged with mostly gray hair, and it's short and spiky, and I'm wearing jeans and a plaid shirt because I'm not speaking today, so I'm just sort of in the background, which is different from the plaid shirt and the dress pants that I normally wear. We're so excited today to have Reverend Phil Lund speaking for us. Reverend Phil and Kiana Dene spent all day yesterday with us doing a wonderful workshop showing us how to listen and helping us practice listen. And so we are very excited to hear now the message that Reverend Lund brings to us. So welcome, Reverend Lund.
Hello. Yes, I am indeed Phil Lund. I'm a white man in my mid-60s with a white beard and a receding hairline and a ponytail. I'm wearing glasses and a light brown linen jacket and a white shirt. And what I'd like to do today, I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes, but I'd like to teach a little song. Is that okay? All right, thank you. This is the song that the title of this message comes from, and I'm going to sing it through once for you, and then we'll do line by line, and then we'll sing it together. All right? Okay, let me see. Okay, I think that's the pitch. All right. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Okay, we'll do that line by line, okay? I'll sing it again, and then we'll sing that first line together. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Next line. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Sounds like you got it. Let's do it. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Another time around. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Awesome, thank you. I first ran across this welcome song when I was searching for music to use during the worship services at Midwest Leadership School, a week-long event we used to hold each summer at various locations in the Mid-America region. I was searching for music that met my criteria for what makes a good song to sing in community, something that's easy to sing, easy to learn, and a little bit catchy, the kind of song that can be sung around a campfire. When I stumbled upon Whoever You Are, I was immediately attracted to both the words and the music. The words were inspired by the welcome statement of the Jefferson Unitarian Church in Golden, Colorado, and the music was composed by folk singer and UU musician Hal Walker of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Kent, Ohio. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. This sentiment sums up the aspirations of many, probably most, UU congregations to be a place that is welcoming to all. And the music, well, for me, it's a bit of an earworm, something that's liable to play in a loop in your brain for a little while. There are, of course, many variations on this theme, and when I did a Google search for UU congregations that use some form of the words, whoever you are, we welcome you, the results were in the hundreds. Apparently, it's a pretty popular phrase among UUs. Indeed, former UUA President Bill Sinkford said during a service called Whoever You Are about the words, come, come, whoever you are, that there is no more universalist message and no more Unitarian Universalist statement of aspiration. As I look through all the permutations of these words and the various welcoming statements used by UU congregations, I was inspired to write a cento poem, a collage poem. A cento is from the Latin word for patchwork. It's a poetic form composed entirely of lines from poems from other poets, or in this case, a welcome statement composed entirely of lines from other welcome statements. So, if you would indulge me, I'd like to share it with you. Come, come, whoever you are, we welcome you. In the fullness of who you are, in the holiness of who you are, just as you are, whoever you are, we welcome you. Whatever religions you have known, wherever you are in your life's journey, you are welcome in this place. Whatever brings you here, your hurts, your imperfections, your places that feel raw and exposed, we welcome you. Your whole self, with all your truths and your doubts, your worries and your hopes. Whatever your life experiences, whatever your heritage or culture, know that you are welcome here. We welcome you, whoever you are. We will make a place for you. Whoever you are and whatever you love to do, we welcome you and we want you to feel blessed. Whether you worship many gods, one God, or no God, you are not alone. There is a place for you here. We will build a home together, whoever you are, whatever your beliefs, wherever you are from or whatever reason you come, whatever the source of your faith, you are welcome here. We welcome you, all of who you are, however you inhabit your body. Know that you are welcome to bring your full self here. Wherever you are on your journey, wherever you are on your spiritual path, come, come, whoever you are, we will make a place for you. High aspirations indeed. What I'd like to do this morning is take a look at how congregations can truly live up to the kind of welcome these words imply. And I'm thinking specifically of how we live up to the claims of welcoming people no matter who they love or how they express gender and sexuality, the LGBTQ plus community. Folks from heritages and cultures other than the dominant heritage and culture of most UU congregations. And finally, folks for whom the source of their faith differs from the ones we usually see in our communities, especially ex-evangelicals looking for different spiritual communities and seeking new theological perspectives. In a UU World article from earlier this year called UUA in the Public Square for LGBTQIA plus rights, author Elaine McArdle writes about how the past several years have seen increased discrimination and violent attacks on LGBTQIA plus community, from oppressive policies with over 100 anti-trans bills proposed nationally to physical violence. She notes that in response, the Unitarian Universalist Association has become even more vocal in manifesting unequivocal support of LGBTQIA plus rights. Part of this response comes from another former president of the UUA, Susan Frederick Gray, who expressed pain and outrage after the Texas governor urged the public and medical professionals to report parents of trans youth who receive gender-affirming care. The full expression of the diversity of sexuality and gender is a gift, Frederick Gray said. But it's not just in the public square that the UUA is making a difference. McArdle reports that in addition to bearing public witness in new ways, the UUA is expanding its commitment to its public-facing ministry and programmatic efforts. Adrian Ballou, who holds the newly created position of LGBTQ and Gender Justice Programs Coordinator at the UUA, says, "Trans rights are an issue of faith for Unitarian Universalists, and there are so many ways to get involved and make change." McArdle then goes on to share a great resource that UU congregations can benefit from: Uplift Ministries, created by Reverend Michael Crumpler, the UUA's LGBTQ and Multicultural Programs Director. To give you a sense of what Uplift Ministries has to offer, I'd like to share some of the language they use that I think would be perfect for any congregation's welcoming statement, as long as the congregation authentically embraces the ethical, spiritual, and theological truth of these words. It's from the first paragraph of Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity 101. We are a welcoming faith. Unitarian Universalism doesn't just open its doors to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities. We value diversity of sexuality and gender and see this diversity as a profound spiritual gift. Amen to that. And I'm grateful to the intentionally renowned gender nonconforming writer and performance artist Alok for helping me understand just what that profound spiritual gift is. In a recent New York Times interview, they say that people are defending the narrative of the gender binary, that there's only two, and that the people who love us told us that, because that's easier than confronting, why were we never asked, what do you want to wear? Who do you want to be? What do you want to call yourself? Who do you want to desire? Why were we never told you own your own body? Because it implicates intimate structures in our own families, our religious communities, our traditions, our sense of self. Alok says, it is easier to create a scapegoat as a repository of all that anxiety. So I have a lot of mercy because I'm like, these things are poisonous to you too. Because presented with every opportunity to be free, people will stifle that. They don't believe that they are worthy of freedom and love. They learn that from the relationships around them. So Alok says, that's why my strategy is no longer about convincing people to accept trans people. Now I want to tell stories that are so human and dazzling that people see themselves and say, I didn't know we were allowed to be that. And now I get to be a little more free. If that is not a profound spiritual gift, then I don't know what is. So next, I'd like to look at the kind of welcome we give to Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And to do that, I'd like to look at the recent Widening the Circle of Concern report from the UUA Commission on Institutional Change, which was chaired by the Reverend Leslie Takahashi, whose words we used to open our service this morning. The UUA Board of Trustees announced and chartered the Commission on Institutional Change in 2017 in response to the events around the hiring of the Southern Regional Lead in the spring of that year. The charge given was to conduct an audit of the power structures and analyze systemic racism and white supremacy culture within the Unitarian Universalist Association. The work the Commission did was thorough and amazing, and the report has already brought about some substantial changes in the association. However, I've heard from folks in smaller congregations that resources like Widening the Circle of Concern are focused mainly on the association as a whole, the regions and larger congregations with full-time ministers and professional staff. And that makes it difficult to find things that can be helpful for smaller congregations. I get what they're saying. Most of the recommendations in Widening the Circle of Concern are directed at those larger components of the association. But there are some things that I do think small congregations could find helpful. For example, in the theology section of Widening the Circle, there are these recommendations and proposed actions. Re-engaging with our theological legacy and its use today will both ground our efforts to welcome all who are drawn to our faith and provide sources of resilience for Unitarian Universalists in these difficult times. That's the first recommendation. And the actions they suggest regarding that are center the theological work of Black scholars, Indigenous scholars, and scholars of color, both professional and lay, whose knowledge is resonant for our times, and provide more resources for lay leaders who wish to engage in theological conversation. Another recommendation is Education about the covenantal nature of our faith will allow communities to support and nurture one another as the overall U.S. climate becomes more hostile to and disinterested in a life of faith. And the suggested actions that follow this recommendation are: provide support from regions to prioritize developing congregational covenants tied to mission and goals and include aspirations for equity, inclusion, and diversity. Develop resources for training on engagement with, rather than avoidance of, conflict as a part of change and transformation. I just want to say that your regional staff is here to help you with these recommendations. If your congregation wants to engage in theological conversation, and we'll hear more about that, why that's important in a moment, let me know and I'll do what I can to find resources for you and help you develop a plan to hold those conversations. The same is true with doing the work around mission and goals. And one of the big parts of our role in the region is to help with conflict engagement and transformation. Other recommendations include this from the Congregations and Communities section. Covenant and commitment, not comfort, should be the binding fabrics of UU congregations and other communities. The follow-through action: prioritize workshops on covenants of right relationship and curate models of covenants for congregations and communities of different sizes and demographic profiles. And in the hospitality and inclusion section, there's this recommendation: new structures to provide leadership education to UU leaders are needed and should include multicultural hospitality practices as foundational, which includes this action: curate and amplify best practices for training ushers, greeters, board members, worship assistants, and other lay leaders in intercultural competency. And finally, in the liberation or educating for liberation section, we find this recommendation: resources and tools to ensure a variety of entry points into the spiritual work of embracing one's own identity and the identity of others should be curated and, when not available, developed. Resources on healing religious wounds and productive conflict engagement are also needed as a core part of faith development. And here's one of the actions they suggest: offer resources to address the healing of religious wounds, which many Unitarian Universalists bring in from past religious experience and which sometimes restrict the deepening of our shared Unitarian Universalist faith. Which leads me to the last area of welcome I'd like to explore: welcoming folks for whom the source of their faith differs from the ones we are accustomed to in our congregations. Last June, Diana Butler Bass, one of America's most trusted commentators on religion and contemporary spirituality, and I took that line from somewhere, but it's true. That's, yeah, she's amazing. Diana Butler Bass posted on her Substack newsletter, The Cottage, an essay called A Quiet Trend. In it, she noted that as she's traveled around the country lately, she's heard repeatedly from pastors of mainline Protestant churches that they're having more and more ex-evangelicals deconstructing evangelicals and searching post-evangelicals, checking them out. She calls this a quiet trend because she doubts that this is happening in numbers large enough to be measurable in national surveys, but she doesn't doubt that it is happening. She goes on to say, what is happening now reminds me a bit of a similar and often overlooked movement in the 1990s and early aughts. Then, Catholics who were discouraged by their church's views on women's ordination and divorce, or angry about the sexual abuse scandals, found their way into progressive mainline churches. I really perked up when I read that because when I became involved with Unitarian Universalism in the mid-90s, I was amazed by the number of former Catholics I met in congregations that I've worked with. Do we have any former Catholics here today? No? Okay, I've got a few, okay, yeah. I was really surprised. It goes on to say, American religion has always involved switching, and I think many of us have switched to get here. She notes that, and it may be the next disaffiliation wave benefiting the old mainline will come from disgruntled and deconstructing evangelicals as they discover progressive churches. So my question is this a progressive church that they might discover? And what I really love about her essay is her take on how progressive churches can prepare to welcome this potential wave. Here's a quick rundown of her suggestions. You're going to have to prove yourselves trustworthy, open, and affirming, accepting. You'll need to earn their respect. You're going to have to answer a lot of questions about Bible theology and polity, and that's where the widening the circle recommendation about theology comes in, by the way. One of your best resources will be the ex-evangelicals already in your congregations who grew up in evangelicalism in the 70s and 80s and 90s and left a while ago. They are there in your pews, even if they don't talk about it much. Do we have any ex-evangelicals here? Yeah, right. So they're here too, yeah? Watch out for religion trauma triggers. These newcomers are going to need to feel safe, but they may eventually want to talk through some tough issues. And remember what Widening the Circle report said about healing religious wounds. And then finally, create a culture of storytelling, journey telling in your congregation. Dinah Butler Bass says, I'm a big believer, she says, in the power of spiritual memoir to heal rifts and mend our own hearts. Listening to and learning from each other's stories will go a long way toward welcome, acceptance, and mutual appreciation. And those of you who were in the workshop yesterday maybe experienced a little of that yourselves. Then she offers this truth. Nobody's going to save your church or your denomination unless you put in the hard work of listening, learning, and authentically caring about the lives and hurts and hopes of the people who wend their way to your community. If you found meaning and purpose in your spiritual life and journey, make sure to share it. And she closes with these words. Love God, love your neighbor, love the messy, beautiful diversity around you. Love the wounded world. Practice joy and justice. Trust. Tell the stories of faith over and over and over again. Create, imagine, envision. Be your most beautiful, welcoming selves. I love that last sentence. Be your most beautiful, welcoming selves. And that's my hope for this congregation, and indeed every congregation in our association, that we learn to be our most beautiful, welcoming selves, that we take the time to do the hard work of listening, learning, and caring. Maybe then we'll live up to the most Unitarian, Universalist statement of aspiration. Come, whoever you are, we welcome you. Thank you.